Welcome back to the Alec Lewis Show. I am your host, Alec Lewis. This is episode 95, recording on July 10th from the Alabama studios. Training camp is not far away, so it's almost go time. The guest for you today is a guy named Ollie Connolly. If you don't know him, please check him out on social media. He lives overseas. He's studied football for close to 15 years and scouted and written and been on a ton of podcasts, has a Substack, Read Optional, that is phenomenal. And then he has also hosted podcasts with John Ledyard in the business, who they do great work. I mean, it's some of the most, like, for in the weeds football stuff, it's about as good as it gets. And Ollie loves Brian Flores. He had a lot of thoughts on JJ McCarthy, and so was a really fun conversation, as it always is. And looking forward to you guys listening to this. A couple housekeeping items. The first is we're doing a giveaway for episode 100. So we're at 95, episode 100. You're going to get a Jersey Mike's gift card if you win it. You're going to get an Alec Lewis Show t-shirt. You're also, we're working on potentially 2 tickets to a game for the winner of this giveaway. So your question, what do you got to do for the giveaway? Subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. You got to follow the Instagram page, Alec Lewis Show, and follow us on Twitter, Alec Lewis Show. Do those 3 things. We're going to have a list of names. We're going to raffle all that stuff off. It's going to be pretty fun for episode 100. This show, as always, it's presented by First Resource Bank. That's a member FDIC bank in the Minneapolis area. They got branches all over the place. Tim Siegley is the main honcho. He's the guy who runs the thing. As nice as can be. Works with Aaron, his son, Charlie Anderson. They are great people. They're Vikings fans. They go to games. They support this thing because they love the local community. They want to grow it. They love the interaction, the engagement. So First Resource Bank, the information is in the description below. The Athletic, we've been, it's quieter time. It's PTO time. I'm not big on like, hey, I'm going on vacation. It is what it is. Everyone takes vacation. So we've got stories over there. Did 91 thoughts on the 91 roster players, including Oscar Chapman, who is part of the International Player Pathway Program. There were some jokes in there. There's some insights in there. So please go check that out. Without any more time, let's hop right into our conversation with Ollie Connolly. Think you guys will enjoy this. Let's go. All right, Ollie, welcome to the Alec Lewis Show. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I told you this before we recorded, but I've read and listened to your stuff for a long time. I always respect it and appreciate it because I feel like so much of your evaluation comes from what you see on tape, and I always, I appreciate those who view it from that lens. We're going to start shockingly, to the surprise of everyone listening to this show, with JJ McCarthy, the quarterback you may have heard of. And I want to go, before we talk about this year, I just want to go back. What do you remember about your evaluation of him at Michigan with the sample that existed in that year that they won the national championship?
I thought what was so interesting about him is that he was put into this kind of bucket because he played for Harbaugh. They played in what would be a somewhat throwback offense. I think for people who had viewed maybe 5-6 years of quarterback prospects and they view that Michigan team, they go, oh, that looks almost similar to going back to the mid-2000s. Look at this thing. And so I thought he was put a little bit in that bucket of people saying there's a bit more of the pro readiness because of the style of offense. And then when you actually dig through the evaluation, okay, what are the mechanics like? How is he throwing? What's the base like? Where is he going to with the ball? Depending on what he's seeing. I just felt he was way better mechanically when things were a little funky. When it was like, okay, you got to move out, you got to work, the pocket's a little muddy. When he almost had to speed up and stop thinking about the game, I actually thought him playing on instincts. He was a little quicker, a little sharper. He throws everything really flat. He throws everything at 1,000 miles an hour. And so when it's that kind of like boom, boom, bang, bang, it's got to go. I think that's actually where he excels. So I was excited for him. I was hoping he would sit for a year as a rookie anyway, and I know the injury means he's, reps off the field and more the mental reps, which is helpful, but not the best. There's a lot to clean up, I think, fundamentally, release, timing, rhythm, all that kind of stuff, which will be essential for him. But I was excited for year one, because I actually thought in the fire, when it's like, oh, this is all going really wrong, I actually think he's got a chance to produce really high-level stuff immediately, where it may seem like there's some disaster games and it's like, 13 for 25 or something like that, and what happened, but 2 or 3 of those throws might be like, whoa, we could be under 6 years time, we could be looking at Stafford like it.
Yeah, well, it was interesting, and I told you this. I went back and listened to the podcast you did with John Ledyard last year, and I mean, you guys, to me, it was so fascinating because you talked about base and how he'd get wide, and so that was one of the things early on in Minnesota that they focused on, that was a priority for them, and I mean, I wouldn't call myself the utmost expert on evaluating quarterback mechanics on routes on air, but I do think he's made progress in that area. And then the other aspect that you guys talked about was just, I mean, like you said, everything's flat. There wasn't a ton of layering, and that remains kind of a question mark, work in progress. So the question to you would be, like, how important is that ability, do you think, in this Kevin O'Connell system specifically, and just in the league in general? Like, how many guys thrive that can't, change speeds, use different clubs? Like, how possible is that?
Yeah, you can't be a good quarterback in the NFL without a pitch wedge. It's just that simple. I mean, we all know all the names. You just watch Red Zone and you go, well, that guy can throw the slant and can rip it down the field, and then in 3 years he's out the league. Because you have to attack the seams. And JJ was an unbelievable seam ball thrower in college. When they would run 2 tight ends, one guy down the seam, because he can just grip it and rip it immediately. Base can be whatever. It's a mess, whatever. And I almost think that stuff, honestly, was a little pre-programmed. I mentioned the thinking, some delays. You could almost see, okay, my feet are supposed to be here, then I screw my feet, and all of a sudden you just kind of elongate because you're not playing on instinct. You're not playing with, the rhythm that you're supposed to play with. There's too much going on upstairs for you to just sort the feet out in time, and it's just not precise, and you've not got the reps in yet. That's what you see a lot of time with young guys, is they can do it in stretches, and they're almost so programmed that they just, then it's not feel. And Anthony Richardson is a great example, where he comes out in preseason of the second year, and it's like, whoa, look at the mechanics. He's overhauled himself. Then the bullets start flying. He reverts back to the mean, and he's like, I don't know what's going on with my footwork downstairs. But to the point about layering, O'Connell, anyone, particularly with the way defenses are now, when we're in this kind of 2-to-rotate world, or we're playing with 3 safeties a ton, or there's some kind of rotation from the first level to the second level or third level, some kind of mugged up look, and you've got a mug and dropper. If you just picture it in your head, when you see these different shells, and there's only so many coverages, right? You see these different Tampa 2 shells as kind of the mainstream of the league right now. When you overlay the play design, it can look like we have all the throws we want all the time, but depending on the rotation, the quirks, how different players move, the window's open at different rates. How it's open, how you get the ball there is just open at a different time, so you just have to be able to put loft on the ball, layer it between linebacker and safeties. That's the money throw in the league, right? And unless you are Russell Wilson, where the atypical throws down the field are so stupendous beyond any historical norm for 5 years in a row, is what Russell was able to get away with, and be somewhat successful and sustainable. Not the entire time, but somewhat. That's the only way you can get away with it, and you just have to be the most magical player, I think, to be able to do that.
We've talked about this a lot here locally, but I laugh listening to the show that you did before the draft, where I think you or John, I think it was you were like, he's got a howitzer for an arm. And it's been funny to hear, I don't know if it's local media, I don't know if it's national, but there has been somewhat of a narrative of like, I don't know, does he have the arm? And from what I see in practice every day, I'm like, the question is, like, can he dial it back in a sense? So, like, the arm strength to you never seemed like remotely close to anything you were worried about.
No, I mean, if you're gunning for greatest of all time, then maybe, if you're looking for Marino, look somewhere else, I guess. But if you put him up against that draft class, or you put him up against the one before, you go with Bryce, you go with C.J. Stroud, you go with Caleb Williams. I mean, there's a plus arm compared to all those guys, honestly. And even more so is there's no loss of velocity depending on the arm angle. And that's just where the league is at now, right? Is that you got to be a pocket creator. Everything's going to be funky. The windows are going to be strange. You're not going to be able to play settled in the base every single time. So if you can develop those kind of RPMs, it's just a get out of jail free card all the time. The thing he has that is weird is the trajectory of the ball is really flat. and he hangs it inside. And you don't often get those two things together. And you hand things inside in the NFL, that's how you lose your job in week 3, because you get picked off 3-4 times. And he just has a real bad tendency throwing to the perimeter of leaving the ball inside. And I think he's putting too much on the ball. And if anything, you said, you shave 3% off, you just throw it to the sideline. And that's what happens a lot with these young guys when they come to league, is their rhythm and timing of college and the hashes are so wide, right, that the outside shot, it's a really long way away. So these guys I'm going to plant and I'm going to drive that thing. And so the velocity dips down. When you get to the league and you have Justin Jefferson, and he's the best player in the NFL, and you got to throw it to that thing whenever you want, you just throw it off the sideline. Justin Herbert was the best at this. He had these ginormous receivers, Allen, Williams, and what have you. And they would say to Justin, he had the same problem. He would hang it inside all the time, flat delivery, say, you throw it to the staff. You don't throw it to the player. Throw it off the sideline, throw it to the chain gang. They'll go get it off the sideline for you, Julio Jones style, toe tap, grab it.
Yeah. No, the Herbert comp, I don't know, it's interesting. Maybe it's, I mean, I know Justin is probably 4 inches taller and probably 20 pounds heavier, but from a, trajectory of throws, it's kind of an interesting one. And I don't know if I should say this. I've talked to some people in Los Angeles who work closely with that position, and it's a name that's come up by comparison. So I don't know if you were comping there. I just think that it is interesting in some ways to think about those two guys in tandem. It's just
more so the development arc that stuff you can figure out instantly. You tell the player the new target point is off the field, and Herbert got it in a flash. 3 weeks done. And so there are things like that when you go through the tape of a college prospect, you go, oh, that seems tough. And, people go through and grade and they say, oh, this is an issue. The boundary accuracy isn't so strong. It's like, well, we got a good staff who has 2 sentences with the guy and he's good. We should be able to correct that thing really quickly. And Herbert is a great example of those kind of really nuanced issues you can clean up quickly. The layering the football, again, that's where Justin Herbert is just on a whole different plane. I think he almost has a reputation as a gunner. He is threading the thing, with loft constantly. That is where he makes his money in the league. Same with Burrow, same with Mahomes, all the great ones. That's what they do.
Yeah. Beyond, obviously the success that Kevin O'Connell has had over the last 3 years and beyond, you mentioned Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hockenson. We could talk about the skill players around this guy. Why would you think that the marriage between this coach, this quarterback, could work?
Why it would work, I just have so much faith in Kevin O'Connell that whatever he says goes, I think, for me. Just as someone who studies the game, I'm like, well, he knows more than me. I guess he's going to figure it out. If he bounced Darnold out of there rather than, keeping one in the quiver and saying, let's bring him back and then we'll see who's the best player, I feel like he's got a pretty good impression of how it will work. I personally, for me with McCarthy, I think the issues in year one is going to be a lot of the above the neck work, and it's going to be tying that to the feet. Okay, can I play with rhythm? Well, okay, that's an issue for me. Well, can I play with rhythm when everything's moving and then it's chaos in the front? That's a different level of rhythm, right? You can look so good in the 7-on-7. You can look all go through training camp. You can look all go through preseason. The reason these guys break down is when it's all happening on the back end and it's all happening up front. Suddenly your feet start pitter-pattering and it's 3.5 steps instead of 3 steps. The ball comes out flat. You go, oh no, as the ball's in flight, and we get some wonderful NFL film sound after the game as they bang the tablets on the sideline. So I trust O'Connell to have just the ideal infrastructure for whatever he thinks is the best way to get through that in year one, which maybe we're just going to have less rhythm work. We're just going to be a real shot play based team. We're going to get heavier. We're going to run the ball a bit more. We got this new interior offensive line. We should be clean all the time when we try and take shots. And then, as we said, he can just drive it. So their play action game is just so vertically based, where it's a vertical drop rather than a boot and a roll. And so it's you end up in what is like a classic 7-step drop, and let's just sling it. Yeah. And so I think that is probably year one going to be helpful. My reservation is, when I watched JJ as a prospect, I really felt, and I feel this for a lot of guys, and I have this almost like philosophical argument with a ton of people in the league, out the league, what have you, that I would put so many of these guys in empty way more than anyone else does. And him in particular, where you can just predefine things. We get Justin Jefferson, guys. That's how you sit in the meeting. We get Justin Jefferson. Can you believe that? They got to put 2 guys on this guy every time. What if we put 5 out in the pattern? They got to put 2 on him. I feel like we're pretty good. That means it slices the field in half. You know where you're going, the rhythm. Don't worry about that. See it, sling it. That's what I would like to see. But O'Connell, who is a guy who made his name with the Rams by completely overhauling their empty package. That was what got him like the gold stars with McVay. And McVay says, okay, you call third downs now. You did this stuff for me. He's just moved away from that. And I don't know if that was the O-line, and by reinforcing it in the offseason, he says, no, that's kind of where my heart is. We'll move back to it, or not. But that would be, for me, way more empty, bit more tempo, and kind of predefine things to him a little bit more before the snap.
Yeah, it was interesting. You did a very, I messaged you about this, and it was sparked my want to have you on the podcast. Did an incredible story, I thought, on Bryce Young and his development, and I'm development and the arc of his time in Carolina, and I'm an Alabama native recording this from Birmingham, Alabama, so there's a little bias in my appreciation for that story, but I did feel like just some of the writing in terms of Dave Canales appreciating and understanding, like, this is a guy who mentally can process and be very strategic pre-snap. Why not structure things in that way? Like, J.J. McCarthy, and you talked about this with John, in college at the line of scrimmage in games like the Penn State game, he was very savvy in terms of being able to read numbers front to back and check into the right play call. So I think that's an aspect. It's a curiosity for me of how much are they going to put on his plate in particular at the line of scrimmage, because there's an offense that wants to do that, but it's also a guy who's going to have a lot in his mind, to your point, so you don't want to cloud it too much, really.
No, but what helps with that is the signing of Ryan Kelly. I mean, you listen to the show we do, and my whole thing going into the offseason, my number one thing for every team in the league was like, go and sign Ryan Kelly and Will Fries together. Both of them are available somehow. I don't know why Ballard allowed that to happen. They're both available. For any team in the league, that is the best switched-on tandem, pairing together and not allowing free runners. Flat out simple, stunts, twists, pressures, whatever it is. Those guys are so in sync all the time. They just never make a mistake. They never allow a free runner. The Vikings, by the way, last season allowed a bajillion free runners. So they probably sat in the room going, we'll just go get the guys who don't allow free runners anymore.
You don't need to tell the people listening to this. It's agonizing.
So to me, it's like, well, we get Ryan Kelly. It's like, you was walking the rooms like, we have Justin Jefferson. Our passing game is pretty set. We have Ryan Kelly. Okay, well, now the layers are building pretty nicely where you can just hand him. He is so intelligent, so brilliant. Everywhere he's been, he's had command of the offense, both setting the run game, setting the protections. Think of all the quarterbacks he's worked with, and not one of them, Matt Ryan came in there, not one of them was like, hey, I'm going to handle this now. They're like, Ryan's really good at this stuff. You worry about the quarterback things. Let Ryan handle this stuff. So you can naturally take that stuff off JJ's plate anyway, without it actually impact. It's not like it's a demerit to the team to say, we're going to move it to the center to make it easier for the rookie. It's like, this guy's just better at this stuff than anyone else. So let's let him do it. And so if you get an offensive line where you have the two bookend tackles, two guys inside who don't allow any free runners, and then the talent of Donovan Jackson, to me, it's like, why would we not be a 5-out offense? That wouldn't make much sense to me to not have that to your advantage. Well, we're in a league now where everyone's moving all the time, in the front, on the back. How do you stop the movement? You get into empty. Everyone's got their calls, their checks, they kind of default. The blitz paths the menu's just way shallower if you're in empty. It's just difficult. You got to cover everyone, obviously. Harder to rotate. Everyone, the splits are way wider. So if you can use that to your advantage by knowing, well, we have an offensive line who doesn't allow guys through free. We got the best tandem in the league in the middle of the offensive line. That is a huge, huge advantage that no one else in the league, frankly, is going to have going into next season. So if you can do that and predefine things for the quarterback more, that makes a ton of sense to me. It's not who O'Connell has been in Minnesota. And maybe with a young guy, like you say, he's like, I don't want to be in a third drop back situation with a first-year starter. That seems silly. But to me, just with where the league's at and the roster he's got, if he really has faith in this guy and he was cool with moving Donald on, that is what I would be looking to do.
It's interesting listening to you because it feels like, there is a world where you feel extremely good about what this offense is capable of. And I guess the part we haven't talked about is the part that's been hard to talk about for 3 years, which is the run game. And I don't know how much you've studied the Vikings run game or evaluated it, and I could spit the numbers that I talked about with Mina last week. It's like, they've hovered in the bottom third really over the last 3 years. They've tried so many different, patchwork exercises, whether it's bringing in Josh Oliver, who is a great run blocker, whether it's, Blake Brandel or Dalton Reisner, just this circular, path of different guys, and they just have not been able to run the ball. They re-signed Aaron Jones, they acquired Jordan Mason, and you would hope that, you know, it improves in that area. Now, it's interesting talking about empty, you know, to think about how they'd marry things up in that way. But I'd be curious what you think about how they might improve this aspect of the offense that has been lackluster for 3 years. And maybe it's just as simple as you have Ryan Kelly and Will Fries.
Yeah, that might be helpful. I mean, they had guys who could get off the ball really explosively in their base stuff, right? It's all wide zone and duo the entire time, some insert stuff. But the guys they had, for all their faults, that was their game. That was part of why they built the run game that way, right? I would like to see more movement in the run game, more pulling, wrapping, angle stuff. I think Donovan Jackson, he can really roll. Really, really roll. Fries and Kelly, it makes that tough. Those guys are more cinch to point. People wrap around them. Where you can't just have one side of the line that pulls. You become so siloed, it just becomes a nightmare for everyone else. And then that just destroys all the play action goodness you'd be building towards anyway. I see the concerns with the run game, and I've seen the figures myself. To me, it's kind of not irrelevant, but when the play action figures are so good, the only point of that run game, beyond trying to close out a game, if you're really just frustrated by, when we get heavy to close this thing out, we just can't pick up 10 yards on 3 downs. The only point of the investment in the run game is to trigger play action shots. No one triggers play action shots more than them in the entire NFL, right? The point of the run game is to get to RPO and quick game, is to get to play action, is to get to your shot plays. That's the whole point. Can you make it look, smell, feel the exact same every single time? There's no tells in the formation, no tells in the movement, no tell in the wrapper, and then we spike them over the head. And they do it better than anyone in the league, year after year. So to me, it's like, as long as it looks the same, even if it's not that good, if they just believe we're putting the investment in and it looks the same for our play action shots, I personally am good with that. And it seems to me like O'Connell is. I know they're trying to make adjustments. And maybe the solution, if we go to empty, we don't have to worry about the run game, guys. Maybe our figures look better on the stat sheet. I don't know.
Well, it's like, I can imagine, I mean, Kevin's not listening to this, but if he's like, we could just go empty, it's like, he's not going to, this guy loves throwing the football, and the people listen to it. I mean, the other aspect, I mean, it's like, if you can improve in short yardage and goal line situations, and that stuff can give you some semblance where Sam Darnold doesn't have to drop back, against the Lions as often as he did in those spots, and you could just run it in. You probably feel better about it. But it's interesting to hear your perspective there.
The problem as well with you kind of touched on it before, with if you say, okay, we're going to be an empty, heavy-based offense, we're going to get to the Carolina Panthers levels last year or whatever. We're going to be in the 10, 12, 15% vortex, which the Rams were when O'Connell was there, by the way. They far outpaced the league with this stuff. It's just so difficult to not get siloed, and particularly when you run his offense, which is condensed and tight. You're just now bouncing back and forth between these two systems where everyone's like, well, we know exactly what's coming. Like, the personnel tells us, the formation dictates to us, you become predictable. When his whole, I wouldn't call it genius, his strength is the cohesiveness of the system, right?
Yeah.
His game planning is as good as anyone in the league. The layering of the offense is better than anyone in the league. Liam Cohen probably right there with him on 1 year, but O'Connell over a broad length of time. You would eliminate a lot of that if it's like, well, now we bounce into empty, and now we're going to get back tight and condensed. It's a really hard thing to try and fuse together. The only real offenses that have done it at a really high clip is like the all-time greatest Patriots offenses. It's like they figured it out, so you've got to be at that level, if you know what I mean. I mean, you do have, again, Justin Jefferson. It really does tilt the field for you in ways that, Moss did for the Patriots.
No question. All right, I mean, we talked close to 21 minutes, mostly about the offense, just because I wanted to save you. I wanted to save Brian Flores for you, and I told you this before we start recording, but like every time I'll listen to you and John, and I try to do it a lot, and you're bouncing around the NFC, you're talking NFC North, and then you get to the Vikings, and you guys are talking about Flores, and your voice just lights up. So I'll just start you with, what do you appreciate most about this guy?
It's fun. I love Brian Flores as much as you cannot love a family member or like a friend really well. It's bordering on peculiar, where I'm sure Brian, who is a peculiar character himself, is like really weirded out by it at this point. It's just the inventiveness, it's the creativity, it's the understanding immediately, not even immediately, 6 months ahead, like the league is going here, we're zooming to the end point. before everyone realizes where it's going. It's just so unusual to see that and to find a way to blend, because it's not as though everything he's doing is like brand new. I think that's almost the impression given. Everyone always uses innovation as though all this stuff is brand new. He said, I'm going to take all the best stuff from Rex Ryan. I'm going to take all the best stuff from Bill Belichick. I'm going to take all the best stuff from Nick Saban. If I put that in one package, that sounds pretty good if the players can execute. So that's the thing that I appreciate. And then he just rolls out more than any coach at any level of the sport stuff where you're like, not only have I never seen that before, every meeting room I've been in, every coaching clinic says you cannot do that. That's how you lose in this sport. And he pastes people with it. It's that it works. That's what I like. Is the not even the inventiveness. It's that it all works. And there's just a chess master element to him that is on like the genius spectrum of things, where I don't know how he thought of some stuff, how he convinced his boss that he was allowed to do it. Did he lie? Did he say, we're not going to do that? And then he does it and he just works?
I think he just does what he wants to do. I think that's
I think so.
Is there an example, like you say, of like, every clinic, every coach would be like, you can't do that. Is there an example of that for, maybe it's as simple as just blitzing as much as he does, but is there an example of that for you?
Yeah, it's not the blitzing alone. People have had those blitz rates before. Wink Martindale got out of bed with like a 60% blitz rate. It's nothing that special. Rex, when he was really rolling, had a higher blitz rate than Flores has had the last few years. It's the blitz with the zone behind it. Then it's the blitz with the style of zone behind it, and saying, I don't care the fact that we're supposed to have multi-layered defenses, you got about levels in the defense. That's what everyone talks about at these clinics, Alec. It can be quite boring at times, It's like, you got to have levels in the defense. That's why those layered passes you were talking about before come in, right? There's all these different levels. How do we fit it in? He's just like, what if I just segment my defense in 3 and there's like one guy in the second level? And everyone around is like, I think it takes the quarterback literally like 4 seconds to be like, wait, what are they doing? Are they allowed to do that? Is that in the rules? To just say, I'm sending 6 guys. There's going to be one guy in the middle. Everyone else is standing deep. Let them make that call. Is like, you should not be able to do that on third down in the NFL more than one time. To crank it to like 6 times in one game is just beyond belief. And honestly, the thing that really was remarkable last season more than the year before was, in the first season, he adopted like a widespread read blitz culture that I'm sure you've spoken about before, which he took from Belichick, which Belichick and Saban had as like this, not gimmick, but like a situation-based call, right?
Sure.
A read blitz, like the RPO, the defense, 2 guys over 1, it's conflict for the offensive lineman. Whoever he tries to block, you drop out into coverage, the guy goes. Simple stuff. He said, what if that's my entire pressure plan? Has anyone thought of this? If the RPO guys do it all the time and we panic, and we can't sleep about it, why don't we do it constantly on defense? No one can figure this out. And what if I put 4 conflicts along the line rather than 1? How about that? Rather than just like conflict in the center, what if everyone is conflicted and panicked? That stuff was like, wow, I can't believe he's getting away with this, because just the depth you got to get to how to figure out the coverage stuff behind it. He just wasn't interested. As long as I corrupt the protection plan, we'll figure the rest out. We'll rally, we'll tackle. Then people start to figure that out on him. They go, well, if he's conflicting us, then we can make who we want drop into coverage, right? If we know if you pop to them, they drop, we'll make the bad guy drop and we'll put our best player on the bad guy who drops. Pretty simple. So we started to get worked on that stuff. So then he comes back and says, what if I just go all out pressure again? They think I'm this crazy maverick who everyone's reading everyone. I'll just send the house, or I'll it's just predetermined. This guy goes, this guy drops. So then everyone's like, oh, God, now he's changed it all up again. What are we going to do? I don't know what to do with this guy. He's changed it up on us again. Then he gets to Aaron Rodgers. Was it week 6 last season? I can't remember.
I think it was week 5, maybe one of those too. In
week
London.
5.
In London.
Yeah. And he sat there, he's eating his fish and chips or whatever. He goes, I'm going to get Aaron this week real good. Aaron sat there. Aaron knows this stuff better than anyone. He's going to figure it out and break me with the mental side of the game. And he says, I'm going back to the re-blitz structure for one game. And the pick 6 that they get in that game, it's Van Ginkel, I think, right?
Of course.
Comes on that exact same thing. You see Roger Mead be like, I cannot believe he did that to me. They changed their system for 1 week. And not the entire system. The system broad, freeze frame the top of the coverage. It's the same coverage, the same structure. The minutia of how we get to the pressure plan change week to week. No one does that. People don't change that stuff. They change the paths. They tweak it based on who the weak link is on the offensive line. They change some of the concepts. They don't change the principle of the defense for 1 week against one fellow like chess master player. And he does this now all the time. Week to week, they're flip-flopping back and forth because of the continuity of the staff, the defense, and so on. So to be able to imagine that stuff as I'm saying, okay, re-blitzing seems like a smart idea. What if I take it out to the absolute nth degree? Now people are starting to beat me. I'm going to pull it back, and I will deploy it when it's most necessary, and then it works. You get one of the great quarterbacks of all time throwing a dumb pick six to you because he didn't know what was happening. You just don't see people frazzled the way they're frazzled when they face him.
I'll never forget that game, and maybe like the week after, and I'm looking at some of the data, and it's like, it says it on True Media. I'm like, it says they ran 13 snaps of two-man in that game. I've never seen, and in the time he's been here, I've never seen two-man. I remember walked up to Cam Bynum in the locker room, and I was like, you guys didn't play two-man. He's like, oh yeah, we just rolled that out. I was like, is that possible? Like, can you just, all of a sudden, so it is, and like, some of the players have talked about it. It's like Flores, and the way they view it is, you're almost like, when do you buy the dip? Like, when does Brian Flores think the other team thinks that he's going to then shift for an example, like the read blitz structure to the we're just going to call it and haul it type situation. Yeah. It's, and then when do we sell? Like, and that's even in game. Like, there have been times where I've talked to players after games of like, yeah, they started to get a beat on us. So it was like, we flipped it. And I think so much of it, and Flores deservedly gets so much of the credit, but I often, and I've thought about this a lot this offseason, I think so much is an attribute to the smarts of these specific players. Like, a lot of these guys have the mental wherewithal to be able to kind of adapt in this way that it's like some of the guys were just here, your Harrison Smiths, your Josh Patellas, and then they've obviously targeted the Van Ginkels who have that ability, but it's so under probably discussed or valued, like the ability of those guys on the field to adapt in real time.
I couldn't agree with you more. It blows my mind what he's able to get out of them cognitively. I'm sat there going, what did he do this week? I'm like, well, how did they install that? Did they just pull out last year's playbook and they all knew in 1 week? Some of these guys are new. I think Dallas Turner is a great example of he's not on the field. What's the issue? It's like when you just go through what we discussed with the pressure plan, can you imagine having to deal with that every single week? This week we're going back to the old system. Oh, that's got the old calls and the old checks because if they bump to 3-by-1, we got to do this because we've changed. Oh, it's a reblitz. We don't bump on, I would just be sat in my, the afternoon nap would just extend forever. I don't want to go downstairs. This is so complex, so complicated. So it makes sense why someone like that, for all the athletic gifts and what you would hope from him, 4-man go rush, and can he give us some boost up the arc? If they're going to move him around and bounce him around as they're saying they're going to, it makes sense why you would be like, this is going to take me a couple of years to maybe pick up exactly what Brian is dialed into. And then he's a forthright speaker. I'll put it that way. So if it's not clicking with you, you're probably not clicking with him from the get-go.
Forthright speaker is the kindest way I have ever heard Brian Flores described. Last one on the defense. Mm-hmm. Like you said, he's often 6 months ahead and sees it. So, this offseason, I've done a lot of thinking and watching both in some of the minicamp stuff of like, where do they take this from here? They obviously sign Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave. So part of my mind goes like, can they play with 4 down fronts? What is the benefit of that? What does that allow you? And then I just look around the league and you see the Cardinals 3 safety stuff, and you see there's just a lot of ways they could go. I'm asking you to predict something that is the unpredictable with this guy, but where would you expect them to take it?
I think it's going to remain attack penetration based, and it won't be quite as like wackadoodle, brand new and fresh as it was last season, the year before. I think that is kind of the base, and then you maybe will get just more, well, we got a better 4-man rush. 4-man rush, how you win the NFL anyway. We're here to win playoff games. So at some point we got to do that. Brian's got to calm it down a little bit, right? So I think that is true. And just the fact he can toggle to these different things because they kept the staff together is like, well, and the core of the defense beyond the additions you mentioned, like that's all still in place. The key piece to kind of make those specific nuances sing. So the fact you can toggle between them now means it probably won't be some radical overhaul. I'm ready to be surprised because it's Brian Flores. He'll probably do something I'm not expecting. I think what you get with Hargrave and Allen is just more sizzle and kind of latch and grab power off the ball. So it's like a speed to power rush to just command doubles. And if you can get a 4-man rush with those guys, that would be outstanding. But if not, we just have more oomph off the snap, that puts panic into people. And the panic is what makes all the cool Astro stuff go, right? Without the panic, you got nothing. It's like, we'll just read it out. We're cool. We're Will Fries. We're Ryan Kelly. We're good with this. It's the speed off the snap, the pure jets. That's what makes Ivan Pace effective, even though he's not technically a great blitzer. Is just so sudden off the snap. It's like, what do we do? Oh God. And if we make a mistake, he's gone. So I think that will remain. And the thing that, when I mentioned before about how he's like 6 months ahead and he pushes it to the nth degree, I've written a lot about this idea of inverting the downs, and people have changed how they're viewing defensive football now, and that they're all really trying to find a way, led by Flores at the NFL level, of saying, we got to retake the initiative here. We've given these guys, they got all the rules, they got all the time, they know where they're going with the ball and we don't. You got to find a way to take back the initiative. So I just can't foresee a way where he says, my crazy Brian Flores, he walked off to, Cape Canaveral or whatever for 6 months and he came back with a new playbook. I can't see it being, I'm going to be passive now and we're going pure Fangio ball and it's going to be 2 and rotate and no one's going to see that coming and they're all going to be spooked for 3 weeks. I just can't see that happening. I think he really believes in, we have to set the terms of engagement. If we get crushed over the head, it's good with me. If we get roasted every once in a while, it's good with me. The point for us is to end drives immediately. Play one. That's what we do. So I don't see them changing massive elements of that structure. It's more going to be in the subtleties of, okay, what is the coverage behind it? How is he going to adopt that? Will he just say we're playing more base man coverage? We're just going more pure zero. There's some really interesting stuff they dabbled with last year with 3 guys and stuff they'll probably bore you to get into too much, but changing kind of the geography of the defensive backfield and saying to guys, okay, if we're sending 5, beat us deep outside. If you can do it, that's how you get hit over the head and we're down 21 points in the first quarter. But hats off to you if you can do it. Now, it's tough to do at the NFL level. You have to face Stafford and Goff and Mahomes and these guys, and they drive the ball like anyone. They're all excited to do it. But that a lot of teams dabble with that the second half of last season, this thing called constricted 3, where you're just trying to squeeze the hash marks as much as possible. So much of the league is now trying to, obviously hit right in the middle of the field. We're just going to take all that space away. And if you can beat us outside the numbers down the field, hats off to you. You had a good week. Yeah, so I could see him maybe trying some of that and maybe not being so dispersed in, I have a backfield, I've got a linebacker, I've got a front, and being a bit more malleable in that sense. But I can't wait to see, because like I said, I imagine it's something I'm sure Jonathan Allen will be playing safety and Harrison Smith will be a nose tackle and football will change forevermore again.
Well, it's funny because I got you going on it and you were talking a little bit and then you just went for like 6 minutes. I was like, this guy, it was unbelievable. Just lastly, like, how do you feel about this team, like, writ large in this NFC North? And and I asked Mina about this last week. I was like, are you interested by this team? And she's like, I'm interested by every team. Alec, that's a terrible question, which it probably was. But it just feels to me like it's just a fascinating situation. Obviously with the quarterback, it is. But even defensively, like, you're going to do what they're going to do. And then the cornerbacks that they have faith in right now are Isaiah Rodgers and Jeff Okudah. So just they're spending $350 million plus on this route. Just feels like an experiment of sorts in a lot of different ways. So I'm curious how you view it.
I love Mina. Wouldn't it have been great if she just said, I hate the Colts? I just can't see just says that publicly. Oh, it'd be so good.
But no, it would have been great for the Alec Lewis show. I mean, I'm telling you, it would have been aggregated everywhere.
The New York Post with the headlines,
exactly.
The scandals would have been wonderful. I think it's one of the most talented rosters in the NFL. It's part of my excitement about it is the marriage of the scheme to the personnel. The offensive scheme is not that inventive. It's all the best ofs around the league, run game plan wise and sequencing wise to the highest level possible with, as I said, I think Justin Jefferson's the best all around player in football. So to me, the floor should be 11 wins, and it should be, to me, looking to win multiple playoff games. I think the roster's that talented. The overriding question is the quarterback any good? We don't know if he's any good. Maybe he'll be really good in 4 years, and the roster ages out, and Brian Flores is running a team somewhere else, and we're just like, we missed our window or what have you. But to me, it's as exciting. I'm a scheme nerd, coach, and scout. So to me, it's my number one go-to pull-up week 1 of the seasons. That's why I'm so fired up about them. What is Flores doing? Okay, how does O'Connell view? I've got all these notes of what I would try and do. How does he view it? He's better at this than everyone else. I'm sure he's got some cool ideas. So I'm really fired up just to watch them. And I think the 11 wins should be the expectation for them. Winning 2 playoff games should be the expectation based on the roster. Because if you just look at every key piece of the offense, right, of how you would attack you build in a lab under a salary cap. How are we going to attack modern defenses writ large? We're going to face Halfley. He's doing all this stuff. We watch what Brian is doing in his corridor. You know, all the lights are out. He's doing weird Brian stuff down the corridor, designing all this mad stuff that everyone else is going to try and do 3 months after he's done it. They've tailor-built an offense to do that for me, personnel-wise, right? It's just how O'Connell views that deployment of that personnel, and does it match up with what would be my expectations of how you would attack modern defenses doing that, particularly within his division, and then just can McCarthy execute on that deployment?
Yeah. You said Flores in 4 years leading his own team. I was trying to think of the way, his tactful way, the forward, he'll be intentionally talking forward to people.
Well, he'll obviously be in Lithuania, and I'll be like his defensive coordinator, burn himself out the league probably. Because what he's not had, and what Minnesota haven't dealt with, and, you know, by all accounts, you know, he's a reformed character, and he's got patience now, and he listens to people. They haven't had it go really bad. You know, if you just say, like, hey, I'm coming back with this stuff, and the league's like, we've got you cracked, buddy. We figured a bunch of stuff out. You got way too many tells. You can't adjust on the fly. He comes up with something new that just doesn't work. Well, we haven't seen him yet if it's spiraling down the drain. And the offense is good. And the expectations are to win 2 playoff games for the first-year starter quarterback. That's when, yeah, he's probably going to be, I don't know, coaching, you know, whoever Colorado's quality coordinator would be on or whatever he is done.
I don't see the path, but no, it's fascinating. Ollie, that was very fun. Thanks for hopping on. We will talk to you soon, probably after they unveil again their Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave safety tandem. Thanks for hopping on, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Anytime.
And that'll do it for episode 95 of the Alec Lewis Show. A lot of in the weeds football, but it's great. It's learning time. It's big picture conversation time. Ollie does a great job. He's very fun to chat with, and I always learn something when I'm talking to him. So I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. As I said at the top, a couple things. The first is the giveaway. To enter for a chance to win a $50 gift card, Jersey Mike's, an Alec Lewis Show t-shirt, 2 tickets to a Vikings game, hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Instagram at Alec Lewis Show, and follow us on Twitter at Alec Lewis Show. Do those 3 things, and you got a chance to win a lot of good stuff and a chance to go to a game and see J.J. McCarthy play. The information for that, if I went too fast for you, is in the description. The show's presented by First Resource Bank. That's a member FDIC bank in the Minneapolis area. And that's about it. Check us out at The Athletic. Follow me on social media at Alec_Lewis. And we will be back starting next week or the week after with our 2 episode a week schedule. I mean, we're going to really be ramping things up. When we're out of training camp, I'll have feedback and takeaways and stuff from that. So keep locked in to the Alec Lewis Show. Enjoy your weekend, and we will talk to you guys very, very soon.